All right, next we'll move into a virtual presentation from Brad Schaefer with the Driver's License Division in North Dakota, the North Dakota Department of Transportation. And he's going to talk with us about some process improvements to enhance conviction reporting in North Dakota. Brad has worked for the state of North Dakota for 19 years. He joined North Dakota DOT in 2005, and he's worked as a technology manager, senior programmer, and a business analyst, so a variety of jobs. So Brad, if you are online, can you unmute yourself?
Thank you for having me, and thanks, Brenda, for the introduction and allowing me to talk about how North Dakota made some changes to improve the conviction reporting process over the last couple of years. So when we look back about 10 years ago in North Dakota, we were able to keep up with our CDL convictions and other things that were going on within our operations. But then we experienced an oil boom and a very high demand for CDL drivers in the western part of our state. We called it the Wild West because we had record amounts of CDL tests, and we also set record amounts of road construction because we were busy building bypasses around small towns that were in the western side that trucks were just too large to get through because of all of the activity that was going on. With that increased truck traffic came increased CDL citations, along with just regular citations because our population increased and man camps were going up. It almost seemed like overnight. So then as that was going on, the National Center for the State Courts reached out to us and asked us, why it seems like slowly over time, our numbers started kind of dipping and we were not meeting that 10-day requirement for reporting CDL convictions. Before, all of the out-of-state convictions would come into DOT here, and we would be able to keep up with them. And the daily volume, we could manage that daily volume, and we were able to get everything sent out. But as volume increased, we slowly started to fall behind. When citations came into our office, out-of-state license classes were not reported. This presented a problem for us because we did not know which ones to work right away. So we knew we had to become much more granular with our citations. We contracted our court partners and asked if we could receive the class on the out-of-state convictions. When it came to an out-of-state license class, the courts were not logging this and not including this into the file to be sent to us. So we didn't have that data. And if you don't have the data, it's pretty hard to do anything. So we had two problems that existed to complete this. First, the license class was not a mandatory field in the law enforcement reporting system. So we needed to change that. And second, the court system was unable to handle the out-of-state license classes. So we partnered together, and the courts and us, we contacted law enforcement, and we worked on a request that said, okay, we need to receive this class of license and we need to make it a required field. That wasn't a big change, so we were easily able to incorporate that. But then we also the court had to come up with a way to get us that data. So what the court did is they created a separate database to house that data because their primary system did not. So when it is necessary to send an out-of-state license class, now their interface program will pick up that data from their table and include that into the file that gets sent into DOT. Once that was complete, we had to make a change on the driver's license side because before, all of the convictions that are processed in from the courts electronically are routed into a work queue in the FileNet. And before, it was just an out-of-state work queue. So all the citations were going into this work queue. We didn't know if they were commercial. We didn't know if they were non-commercial. So what we had to do there is we had to build a new queue, a commercial queue, and then we were able to route the commercial ones that were coming in from the courts flagged as commercial into this new queue. So now we know which queue has the higher priority convictions that need to be processed and sent out to the other states. And with that process, we were able to work those within that 10-day requirement. Here you can see just some of the numbers that we were working with. So back, about 10 years ago, we were at 100%. The volume was quite minimal. We were able to keep up with that. And then in 2015 or so, you could see we dipped quite a bit lower there, below 70%, which of course is not good, not acceptable. And then within about 6 months of identifying this problem and making the required changes, we were able to get back up to almost 95% and stay there consistently. And we have ever since. So some of the lessons learned that we learned here through this process is that it really takes multiple stakeholders to be part of this process, and not just one entity or one agency can make a change like this. One of the things that is really great, we have a great staff here in driver's license, and since this issue was identified, there's been a lot more of other issues, not necessarily CDL issues, but issues within our driver's license system that we are able to brainstorm and come up with new ideas and to better process certain convictions and just even driver's licenses themselves. And we're very blessed to have a great IT team that can quickly make adjustments and quickly make changes to our systems and to improve our processes. And then the other big thing that we really benefited from was about maybe twice a year, we have a committee that gets together, and it involves staff from DOT, staff from law enforcement, and then also staff from the courts. And it's just a review session. We talk about things that are going on within our areas, any new upcoming initiatives, things like that. And sometimes they're very productive. Sometimes there's not a lot going on. But one of the key things that I've learned from this, it's not always sharing all that information, because that's good. We do learn things from that, and it may trigger other things. But the key that I find in these meetings that is such a benefit is just being able to network and being able to learn, like, okay, now today we have a problem with our court file or something with a citation. Who's my first point of contact? Who do I know that I can reach out to, that we can start this process and we can start evaluating what's wrong and how we can fix it? Because a lot of time, that's where I see, where there's issues, that there's problems identified, but a lot of times people don't know who to reach out to or who to contact that can actually help make this change and get the ball rolling. Because it seems like once that ball is rolling, people are willing to help out, but it's just sometimes hard to get that ball rolling. So I think collaboration is the key to any improvement and any efficiency that you need your system to do. And we also are undergoing a large system modernization currently with our driver's license system. So we're looking to improve quite a few more processes as we go here within the next year. So we're very excited about that and look forward to improving, everything, the way we can report CDL convictions and just the normal non-commercial convictions. So that is all I have. Is there any questions on that?
Great, thank you, Brad. I appreciate that. Do we have any questions or comments for Brad? So Brad, I know you mentioned in your last slide that you basically had a variety of different stakeholders involved in this process. Did you have any particular roadblocks working across the different agencies to get the information you needed?
No, that's a great question. Really, we didn't, because we had these meetings, these quarterly meetings, sometimes twice a year meetings before this. So we knew who our point of contacts were right away. And once, we reached out to them, they were very receptive. They understood, like, okay, yeah, this probably is a big deal. We need to get this class to you guys so you can do your job. And everyone worked together so well. And, and then sometimes it goes the other way too. Now, if the court would need something from us or law enforcement, we help them out. So building those relationships and building those bonds between other agencies and, working as one, not just like, okay, I'm just only focused on my duties only because that's all I care about, is really key to that. And I think we've did a really good job in developing those relationships with other entities. And that goes for other states too. It's really, really nice to communicate to other states if you have a question on something or if something's going on here. Chances are another state has dealt with the same thing. So building those contacts, you can easily reach out to another state and get an answer that'll probably save you a day of research. So we found that also very beneficial, and it's worked extremely well for us here in North Dakota.
That's great. Any Any other questions for Brad? So Brad, now that you're receiving that class of license, what is the process to report those convictions within that 10-day period?
So the process is now, we built that new work queue in our FileNet system, which has a name of out-of-state commercial convictions. So when we get the file in from the courts, we now have that commercial class on there, and then that will route into this new work queue. So every morning at 7 a.m., the work file comes over and gets processed through our system and loads into FileNet. So then once we have that at 7 a.m. in the morning, when we start work for the day, those work queues are loaded and we know exactly how many commercial convictions are in there. And we know that that's our priority. So we have someone identified to that work queue, and that is the first thing they do in the morning. So they go through that work queue, they process all those out-of-state ones, they get sent out. If they're in state, we'll process all those also to make sure they get on the records. And that has worked really well. And then if that person is out, we have a backup in place. So it was kind of fun because when we first started this process and we got that new work queue set up, they really strive to make sure to get as high as percentage as possible. And a couple of times when we weren't getting up as high as they'd like, they'd be like, well, I work these every single day. So it was cool because then what we would be able to do is we'd go back in and find ones that weren't meeting that retention. And then we would maybe find a couple other little errors that happened there, and they just kept working on it. And they really wanted to see those numbers climb up to, to get to that green level. And we would send those out to the group every month when we receive them from AMVA. And they really liked that. And it was just a good way to motivate staff and also just have that benchmark there saying, that we want to be green in these categories.
Great, thanks again, Brad. Yeah, I know there's quite a few states that struggle with that 10-day reporting requirement, and so I think this might be some useful information for other states who might be looking to make some similar process improvements. Dustin, do we have any questions online?
We do not at this time.
All right, thank you. Thanks again, Brad, appreciate it.
Thank you.